Fleeing from the Cylon tyranny, the Borgcast Galactica leads a ragtag fugitive fleet of feedbackers on a lonely quest for a shining drink known as beer.
Hello.
And welcome to Borgcast Galactica 1.10 with Anne-Marie and Peter.
Hello! Let's get cracking with the first of tonight's episodes. Baltars Escape, a.k.a. Baltar's Big Day Out.
We control the Galactica.
What's going on?
All communication with the prison barge are out.
What?
Landing Bay Alpha is under attack.
Those Alliance representatives, as you call them, have just captured Alpha Landing Bay and the Council.
If we have a Dharma, they might have second thoughts about attacking us.
Gamma, launch at once. Repeat, launch at once.
Oh, spoilers. I love this.
It is fantastic.
Okay. So you start with the Dharmas Log, and I'm afraid it really is a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Because he says that they've left the Cylons for an equally oppressive human enemy.
Yeah, just as threatening as... No, wait, they're crap.
They are! They just... Yeah. It just... Wow. I actually just wrote, really? Oh my... Yeah.
Yeah.
No. But then you get into one of the things that I like about this episode, but you get a lot more in the BSG than you do in original Battlestar, which is the political conflict. Mm-hmm. And their council are sort of opposed to the way he runs things, and he knows he's facing opposition, and they don't want the clear, blatant Nazis who are clearly blatantly horrible to be treated as though they're clearly blatantly horrible, but they want to all be Neville Chamberlain.
Yes, see next episode as well for that.
Yes! So he's going to personally interrogate the dude from the Eastern Alliance.
Yes.
Well, he says that. Well, he turns up and it's a bit like Paddington Bear. He seems to think he can submit him to a hard stare and that will do.
Yes, meanwhile, Herr Flick is quoting Mein Kampf at him, basically.
Yeah! Just, wow. But something you spotted because it was your second watch, but it did make me grin when you pointed it out, as he goes in to interrogate this dude, the door moves before it's touched.
Yeah, before the guard presses the button, the door opens, and then he presses it. It's like, whoops.
Yeah. And anyway, Oberfuhrer von Grottenhauer, or whatever his name is, says that he doesn't like anyone who disputes the natural order. And the natural order is that there are predators and there are prey, there are the weak and the strong, and the Eastern Alliance are the strongest force in the universe.
Der Ubermensch!
Yes, at which point... Adama, I love this, the way he looks at him. He's just like, his whole body language is like, really?
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you explain the Galactica then? And while it's like the wolf pack and the bear, we have, and then he nearly gives their numbers away as well.
Yeah, twonk.
You know, we have nearly 2,000 ships and whatever. And then, what's his face, the plonker from last time? Now, did you know...
Greasy Reese.
Yes.
Greasy Reese's back.
Reese's Pieces.
Yeah.
It says, you've got to stop now, because the council have ordered the interrogation stopped. And of course, Starbuck and Apollo, they aren't allowed to do that or whatever. But the thing is, although I get really fucked off with the council later, to be fair, this is the sort of thing that I understand. If you call yourself civilised and you've got rules about interrogation and stuff, you can't just as a military person go round doing XYZ. You do it via civilian authority, don't you? Mm-hmm. Ordinarily.
And to be fair, Dharma makes the point as they're leaving, we are subject to the civilian authority. He actually tells Apollo and Starbuck off, but yeah.
Yeah. So, like, later on, I'm completely with the whole, no, you're twats, you don't know what you're talking about. But at this point, I think it's... And as well, although they're being stupid, and Adama's like, you're being stupid, and we're like, yeah, you're being stupid... I do get the idea that it's not good to keep martial law, that it should be lifted as soon as is practicable, and the Cylons aren't... If the Cylons are no longer the threat, which appears to be the case, that bit makes sense.
You see, that's all common sense, but your problem is here, this is being written by... the whole show's setup is that actually military might is better, and it's straight through power. It's written
by the Eastern Alliance, isn't it? It's
basically, yes. So, therefore, the Council 12 are always straw dogs that are pathetic and always make the wrong decision and, constantly making the same mistakes as well. Which... okay, isn't a million miles away from politicians now, but even so, it's not
like the anyone.
Yeah, so it's not like the military are any better. So
Yeah, I mean the thing is that it is true that the most effective form of government is benign dictatorship. The problem is that the absolute worst form of government is malign dictatorship, and the only way you can avoid the worst form of government is to never allow any form of dictatorship. So any form of government that reduces the risk of the worst actually is going to have a certain level of ineptitude. Because while individuals might be clever, as Terry Pratchett is always fond of saying, people are idiots. But then you have, as they're walking out, I love this, Baltar, as they're walking out, and it's clear that Adama's been stopped from interrogating, and I'm using this word in inverted commas because, like I said, it's Paddington. The prisoner's Baltar's gloating, and then he gets told he has mess duty.
Yeah.
Which I like. And he's serving mushy peas. And then the Gnomon come in, totally looking like fucked up Bee Gees.
They do. It's like there's two with beards and one without, and they all move together. As they come in, it's just so cool.
Yeah. But I don't know what's changed about their makeup since last time.
It's not as good.
But it isn't as good. And at one point with one of them, and it's not the main dude from the A-Team, it's one of the others. It actually looks as though his eyebrows are about to fall off him in it. There's one in particular that looks particularly bad.
I think it's Bora.
Bora?
Yeah, he's the one with the beard.
Yes, he did have a beard.
Yeah.
How do you know his name?
Because I made a note. Last time they appeared.
Ah, right.
So the other dude is Tarba. He's the one without the beard.
Tarka the Otter?
No, Tarba.
Right. And then, the Gnomon go along and they decide where they want to sit and just stand behind the other people's as if to intimidate them into moving their seats. Reminds me of fucking man-spreaders on public transport. I had one today. Dude was listening to really shit 90s music of shame through his tinny little fucking shitty headphones. And sitting as though he must have had bollocks the size of a planet. Nobody had even... because he was also sitting on the edge as if he was going to get out at an earlier stop than me. No, he didn't. And I get off at the penultimate stop of this particular train. Anyway, so clearly nobody else has insisted, whereas I have a technique which is called bag-na-face, where I've got a bag that I wear around me, and if I spy someone who needs dealing with, I choose to sit next to them if possible, and I accidentally on purpose lean for the nearest railing as if the train is moving, and they get my very heavy work bag in their face. I then sit down, and I then woman spread, for want of a better way of putting it, in order to knock the person's knee into the correct position. There is a line you can spot between the two seats. That is the dividing line of personal space.
The line must be drawn!
Here! This far, no farther!
Yes! Abso-fucking-lutely.
Okay, that's a different podcast. Let's get back to Battlestar Galactica.
Sorry. The point is, that sort of attitude really fucks me off. And if that had been me, I would have insisted on finishing my coffee. I'm finishing.
I'm staying. I'm finishing my coffee.
Abso-fucking-lutely. I have actually used that line at work, by the way. Unfortunately, nobody's thus far got it. When we've been called into an emergency meeting, I have in past say, I'm finishing my coffee.
When the fire alarm goes off, you go, I'm finishing my coffee. I'm going to burn to hell, but I'm going to finish my coffee.
I'm not joking, I did once. Because I knew it wouldn't make any difference to how quickly I got out of the building. Anyway, the point is they're standing there and these people just get up. No. You carry on eating, ideally as slowly as possible. And if at all possible, you find a way of getting your elbow to reach back far enough to get them in the bollocks, accidentally on purpose.
And you fart on the seat, so it's all stinky when they sit down.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, let's get on with it.
Sorry. the point is, I find that sort of behaviour, it rolls me up the wrong way. But these guys just get up, and I'm just like, Anyway, Baltar comes over, being all obsequious. And I love this. They're not having any of his shit, are they?
Don't you know who I am? No. Not just...
I don't care.
Yeah.
And then at one point he says, I've got an escape plan and everything else. And they just look at him and go, your reputation does not inspire confidence.
Yes. Your record of failure.
Like, wow.
And his reaction is
He's
worth...
so hurt, isn't he?
Yeah, it's worth the price of the DVD box set alone, that is.
Oh, but no, you get more later on that,
Yeah.
believe me. But I love that. He says, you know how to break out of your cell. The problem is, how do you escape? If you escape in the shuttle, it's no match for anything. It's not going to get you anywhere. You know, how is it going to work? And I've got a plan. And initially he sort of gets up, and then they go, no, sit down. And it's clear that they're in it. But I love this as well, though. It's like, initially they're like, we're not sure. And he's all like, well, I had incompetent followers. And they look at him like, really? And then it's like, no, you're not followers, really. No, we are all equal. But eventually, they see that, there's something in this. And then he says that he'll know when to act.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get Adama is being awarded an honour, but he's not an idiot. And everybody's like, yes, we need to recognise your greatness and all the rest of it. And Starbuck's all, yay, clappy, 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 clappy. And Apollo's standing there and he's like, why aren't you clapping? And he's going, my father's not clapping.
Because I lived through the pilot where they tried this exact same thing with us to try and impress Adama. And it was exactly the same award as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The medallion of gongness, I don't know. But and I love this. I just love Lorne Green's facial expressions. He's not, at this point, he's not saying anything.
He's just being withering.
With his body language. Yeah, absolutely, completely contemptuous. And he's just like, I refuse. I know you're trying to retire me. And he doesn't actually say, fuck off, but he may as well have done. And then you get the Cyrus. Now, I made a note of her name later.
Tinia, I think.
Tinia.
Tinia.
I don't know.
Tinia, I think, but Tin Ear is probably better.
Tin Ear. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's call her Tin Ear, right?
Yeah.
To be fair, I actually like the way the character is written, and you'll see it more.
She has an arc. Wow.
I know.
Yeah, it's incredible. But yeah, she starts off as obnoxious as the rest of them. By the way, did you recognise the lead one, Saya Domra?
No.
Ah, so we're fingering the bit parts on this, are we?
I want a bit part in your life. A walk on will be fine. I just want a bit part in your life. A bit part in your life. I want a bit part in your life.
Played by John Hoyt, who was the original Enterprise's Doctor in the Cage, Philip Boyce.
It's been too long since, because we watched whatever it was that was later.
Yes, the Menagerie.
Right.
We've seen that, but he was in that as well, though.
Okay.
He's the one that comes into Pike's quarters, and you think he's getting out his medical kit, but actually he's brought a load of beverages to share with the captain.
It's not the sort of thing I'm going to remember.
He's a massive actor, by the way. He was in Spartacus, and so was his wife. He was in Cleopatra, and loads of westerns as well. So he's a really well-known face to US viewers, anyway.
See, they're all filmed. Cleopatra and Spartacus are films I have seen.
But let's face it, both of those have so many actors in them anyway.
Yeah. But also, they're films I honestly haven't seen since I was in my teens. But do you know what I mean? It's very, very long time since I've seen them. I have seen them, but very, very long time ago. And I'm not going to remember anyone other than... Isn't it Kirk Douglas? Yeah, Kirk Douglas in Spartacus, and Hubley and
Richard,
and kept getting divorced and remarried.
Yes,
Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor.
That's them. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
If it's not them, I ain't going to remember it. It's been too long since I've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the way he refuses the honour, but then you have Tinia stand up, and she's like, "Well, if you've been blunt, I'll be blunt as well." we're going to end the martial law. And I think that's, at this stage, given the information they have, I think this is the right decision.
It is, but you know that she says that you'll still get to retain his vote on the council. Yeah, because that worked really well before when they did the vote when he wasn't there.
Yeah, that's not right. That isn't right. Maybe, arguably, it's a case of we're thinking of revoking martial law or whatever. You have a vested interest, you can't vote. But that's not the same.
Well, surely even if he voted, he'd be outnumbered. But the fact they did it completely behind his back.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Again,
it's straw
man thing.
Men being set up to be knocked down because clearly the military are the best.
Yes.
Best of the best.
Yeah. Except I really like this character. I'll get on to why, but I do. And so I like the fact as well that very, very unusually for 1970s telly, the main leader of the council, whose name I can't even remember, is clearly an ineffectual Weasley twat. And the one member of the council who has any balls... As
it turns out, it's Tin Ear.
Yeah, now that's bloody unusual for 70s telly,
she's
isn't
quite
it?
impressive in this. Yes.
Yeah. But I like that as well, that, he's a Weasley twat man, and she's like, well, if you've been blunt, I'll be blunt. And it's like, okay, I might not agree with you and what you're doing, but I can respect you. Do you know what I mean? And actually, the way that, as an actor, Lorne Greene is playing this throughout this episode, you get the impression that Adama respects her in a way that he doesn't necessarily respect all of the council.
Let's face it, the implication is they're dating by the end, so,
Yeah. Yes. And not necessarily an issue. I don't know, but
that comedy dating music is particularly annoying. But
it is. But
anyway, we'll get to that.
The point I'm making is that when it comes to the vast majority of the council, Adama is withering, isn't he? He might not like what she's saying, but he's not being withering to her. He's treating her with respect. Again, unusual for 70s telly. So, to be honest, unusual even for telly today. It shouldn't be. And it's just, it's one of those things that, for me anyway, when I'm watching old shit, if it gets things right, I like to point it out. She is going to be Adama's civilian aide, and you can kind of feel the resignation, except you can't also help sitting there thinking, well, it could have been worse. It could have been, what did you say his name was? Borat?
Domra.
Right. Sounds like a really shit villain, like Mothra or something. So then you're back to the other plot, because this one's got like an A plot and a B plot, the two of which come together, and it's the prison break, and yes, on cue.
Yeah, it's like they're doing Get Help, basically.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Except they all throw themselves.
They do. They do. But it works. Clearly, they haven't watched their MCU. So they stage the breakout. But their guns. You pointed this as well. They've got the kit thing, haven't they? Like from Knight Rider.
Yes, the red lights on them.
Yeah. And so they take over the prison barge. And they're like, you need to communicate and deal with everything as if it's normal, so it all seems normal. And it's like, when would you next communicate? They go, when you land. They're like, right, let's shoot the shit out of the equipment. The council are going to meet the Eastern Alliance delegation, sort of suing for peace kind of thing, in the landing bay. And again, this is annoying, because isn't the landing bay actually military? So should it not be that actually Adama has the right to assign military personnel, military security there?
Yeah, but then you've got the whole question about, what is the power of the Council of the 12? So, it's difficult, isn't it?
It's just, my thinking would be that if the Council of the 12 don't want a sort of big military thing, then surely they should be meeting the people the moment they've left the landing bay, and they can therefore insist on civilian only escort. Whereas if they say we're going to meet them in the landing bay, that is an active military area to which there should always be restricted access and military personnel at all times. And it's not just about do you or do you not believe that the Eastern Alliance people are good or bad. Irrespective of that, even if they were known allies, I would think that a Dharma would have the right to have at least some military security personnel there because it's a military hangar. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Anyway, Tinia insists that no, there can't be any military there because it's because of all you military that they've behaved the way they have. Again, have any of them really actually asked them about their ideology? They're not really a threat because we know they can blow their ships to shit without any difficulty, but they're not nice people. So they're then like, no, we're not going to have it. It's got to be civilian escort anyway. Council security. And I love this. Colonel Ty is fantastic in this episode. I love him.
Yeah, he's brilliant again.
He's brilliant because he says council security couldn't prevent an escape from an orphanage.
Yeah. It's so true.
And then he basically gets told, fuck off and you'll be court-martialed if you go anywhere near the landing bay. And the thing is, and she says, oh, have you done for insubordination? I'm not being funny, but insubordination is to a superior officer.
Yep.
She's not an officer.
Yep.
It's not insubordination. It's for a Dharma to say what Ty can and can't do, not her. And yes, you can argue he needs to obey council orders, but that's not insubordination. Insubordination is a specific misdemeanour or offence. And he's not guilty of that. They've got that wrong. Naughty people have wrong bad. Then you have, on the shuttle, you've got Boomer, and he's driving the shuttle, and they weren't allowed to take just military. They had to be civilians. Again, at this point, although the council are idiots thinking these people are nice, again, you can still see the point that if this is a diplomatic thing, that they would have at least a mixture. But they're just arseholes.
Did you recognise the babyface Bruce Wright again?
You see, I did recognise babyface twat dude, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you where from.
Yeah, well, previously he's been in colonial uniform, now he's in the black security uniform. Bizarre, because he was playing Lomas before, but now he's a different character.
I knew him.
Yeah. Last seen in The Man with 9 Lives.
Right. I'm not joking. He looks like he's doing a Timotei advert.
Doesn't
he? Anyway, they're being completely arsey. So Boomer's like, okay, well, we need to signal that we're landing on... Oh, we can fly this ship then. And I love that. He just totally puts them in their place. He's awesome.
Yeah, it kind of induces turbulence or something, which doesn't really work in space. But never mind.
Well, it does if you're using thrust.
Yeah, I guess you could argue that if he's... Yeah, but it's... Yeah, the sound effects, like what happens when a plane suddenly banks. You know, it's like, that's not how it works in space.
I'm not convinced the sound effects are right, but I think the principle is if you can use thrust...
Yes, I think you can.
Gravity, can't you?
The Expanse, that's kind of the whole way they use gravity in the Expanse is it's basically when they're going fast, they've got gravity, and when they're not going at all, then 0G takes over. So.
Yeah, so you could argue that he's doing... And you do see him doing stuff with the controls.
Yeah,
so I think... In terms of what you see, I think it works, but I think you're right that the sounds are just like an aeroplane that don't work.
No.
No. And then you have Baltar and the Nazis escorting the security. Oh, but they are, though.
Yeah, but this is like Battlestar Galactica does the villains team up. You know how they used to do it in comics? Yeah, well, they'd all get together as the Sinister Six. But now you've got all the villains that we've had so far. You've got the space Nazis, you've got the Omen, and you've got Baltars. Like, yes! All we need now is just the Imperious leader to join in somehow.
Oh, yeah. And then you have no news of the shuttle initially, and then there's Boomer saying to land, but all comms are out at the prison barge. Is the prison barge deliberately khaki, by the way? Is a way of going, we've got shit in here, or something?
Not sure.
It's just,
everything's brown, pretty much, in Galactica, let's face it.
It is, but when you look at the outside of most of the ships, they're kind of off-white. Mm-hmm. There's one in the credits thing that looks a little bit orangey. As though
that's
maybe
the removal one, that is.
Right. And then this one, the prison barge, is like khaki.
It is a little bit, yes. And it's unfortunate because it does look a bit like a toilet, so... Yeah.
Doesn't it? Yes. As long as it's not one of those hideous 1970s avocado sweets.
Mm-hmm.
suppose maybe it is. And it's like, all comms are out. Is that not worrying? And Tinea is like, no, I don't care. Has it ever gone out before? And it's like, well, yeah but...
timing.
And she's like, no, we're not going to have any kind of escorts, no military presence, whatever. And this is the point where I just go, no. You've stepped over the line from, we're at peace now, and martial law is wrong, to, we are just a load of fucking idiots who just all deserve to die for the sake of the human race, pretty much. And this is the point where she is, later on she admits a mistake, but this is the point for me where she becomes stupid in this moment. Like, up until now, I've felt that you could agree or disagree with her, but she has seemed reasonable. At this point, frankly, she seems an idiot. I just think she really does. I'm sure that's deliberate in the writing, but she really does seem a complete idiot. So then, Ty's clearly having none of this. So he gets dismissed, and it's just like, no. So what he does is he goes into he asks specifically, can he go to the mess? And she's like, yes, you can. So he goes in, and he joins Apollo and Starbot for a drink, which he basically necks, doesn't he?
Yes.
And then he asks for another one. And they're like, well, of course you can join us, but this is unusual. And then they're like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? And he explains what happens, and then they're like, I think we might just go for a walk. And then he sort of...
I thought you might.
Yeah, I love that.
He's amazing.
He's brilliant. He's amazing in this. So then the council assemble, and at least, again, for a 70s show, this is fairly unusual. There's a lot of different ethnicities represented here.
Yeah.
And mixture of men and women. Mm-hmm. Now, you think back to the beginning...
Where it was all white dudes.
Yeah, this is progress. And then you get Baltar appearing over comms, and he threatens to blow up the shuttle with everybody on it, having, taken all of them hostage as planned, if he doesn't have his side-on escort. I want my friends back. And this is where you start to get the proper arc from Tinea, because they start talking about, have we done this? He's demanded that. Have we done that? Have we other? And she's there. She's like, so when are we attacking then?
Yeah.
And he's just...
So when do we blow the crap out of them then?
Yeah.
And Dharma's like, hey?
And this is when she basically says, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, it is a sudden conversion, it has to be said.
But it's a sudden... on the one hand, it's a sudden conversion from where she was saying before, no, just because you haven't heard anything. But then I wonder whether maybe that was a bit of a rude shock to her, because she's always been feisty, and... from the get-go, and there's always been that respect between her and Adama, so it doesn't seem like a character change. It seems like an attitude change. Does that make sense?
She manages the one thing that practically every politician never manages to do, which is like, no, I was wrong, let's do it differently. It's like, no politician can ever do that these days, can they?
No, because of the way the media works. Instead of being seen as you've made the right decision now.
Yeah, exactly, you've come to your senses. It's actually, well, why weren't you getting it right all the way? It's like, well, we do make mistakes and hopefully learn from them. No, you're not allowed to do that.
To be fair, though, social media's just as bad.
True enough.
But yeah, she's like, no, you were right, we need to attack them. And she's like, then he is not going to allow them to go free. You know that, I know that, what are we doing about it? Which I like, but I love the grin on Adama's face.
Yeah.
He's great. But even then, with the plan they've got and everything else they're talking about, it's still very much 70-30 odds in Adama's favour. Oh, and then I love this. You've got this whole thing about Baltar is like, he's not going to attack. He's not going to attack because of the value of the hostages. And the No Men are looking at him and they're like, nah. He knows you. He knows you've got no intention of letting them go free. He's going to attack. And if you think otherwise, if you're a bigger fool than I thought, and then you just get, I can't do this justice. It's so brilliant to watch. John Colicos is amazing.
You believe me, don't you?
Yes, I believe you.
Well, I don't.
Nor I.
You have to believe me. It's the truth. I wouldn't lie to you. We're the hostages, and you're afraid?
The betrayal of the human race is completely trustworthy,
And at one point he actually goes up to Boomer and Sheba and goes, believe me! It's like, what the fuck? I I love it. It's just brilliant. And I love as well the disdain that the Newman have.
Yeah,
Baltar.
and
like,
Hair Flick as well.
Yeah.
They're looking at him like, yeah, this is our great leader, is it? Mm.
Dude is unhinged.
Yeah, he is though, isn't he?
He is.
His sanity is so in question at this point.
And it's like, it all depends whether or not a Dharma believes you. And he has to. It's like, what? No. He's not going to. And then you also, as well, get a brilliant line from Tinia, because they're talking about the rescue plan or whatever, and she's like, actually, the way we've behaved, I wouldn't blame the Warriors if they just blew us all up.
Yeah.
And you're just like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then at this point, you've got the dead amusing thing of, and I'm always forgetting his name. I'm sorry. I want to call him Dr. Silky, and that isn't his name.
Oh right, yeah. This is Dr. Wilker.
Dr. Wilker, right? So
he's dismantled Baltar's Cylons long ago and can't put them back together again.
I love this. And they've got the suits with all these wires and shit hanging out.
Can't find the instructions anywhere, not even on Google. And
He took it apart to see how it worked.
yeah. And then when he does eventually get them back together again, you just know there's a pile of parts on the side that he didn't know where they went.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And he doesn't have a part, AB12 or whatever, and has too many D3s or whatever else it is. And I love this. And so he asks for more time. And initially it's like, no, you're not going to get it. I'm not an idiot. And then Adama says, have me in exchange for more time. And then I'm like, that's worth doing. And he's like, no, but I can then let everyone know the plan or whatever. And then Tinia is like, no, I'm coming along. And they're like, what? And they're like, look, they're going to dismiss me. But if they don't let you on, I can. Because they will just see me as another council person. I can let everyone know the plan. And he's like, I'll keep my communicator on a particular channel so that we can keep in touch. And then that seems to be the way it's going to go for a while. They're going to try and have this big assault before he blows up the charges, and the odds are against him or whatever. And then you and me both thought the same thing and thought wrong, because
there are lots of close-up shots on the Cylon armour, including the helmets, and at one point Starbuck actually picks the helmet up and drops it.
Yeah.
You think, well, they're just going to get in the armour, aren't they? That's the obvious answer.
Yeah.
Duh. You've shown the way it's going to be solved. But actually, it's complete deception, because that's not how it works out.
Because it turns out that Wilco can get the Cylon to sort of to say by your command and punch things, it would appear, but not a lot else. So the plan turns out to be that they do assemble the Centurions, so that when they're transferring between ships and the Nazis are going to their D7 and, the prisoners are left on the shuttle and Baltar is going with his Cylons, you think that those two Cylons are going to be Apollo and Starbuck, and they're not. What actually happens is that he gives the command to launch, at which point Punchy McPunchface punches the thing and fucking breaks it.
Yeah.
And then, when they hear that that's happened, that's the point at which Apollo and Starbuck appear, at which point he goes, not you two again.
Yeah! No, my nemesis.
Nemesis, I think.
Nemesis.
Nemesis.
My nemesis.
My nemesis. Yes. Oh, brilliant. And so, foiled again.
Yes.
Texas Pete is foiled again. And basically, all the hostages and everyone, the twatty council of idiots, who have already told Adama, you're having that control shit back again now.
Yeah. Bit late, but never mind, eh?
Yeah. And the thing is, actually, in these circumstances, given how little a threat the Eastern Alliance is, I'm not sure that's right. I think they don't need martial law anymore. They just need to fucking listen to Adama. That's my feeling.
They need to be stop being such obvious twats. That's the
problem. Basically. And then it's like, oh, you let the Eastern Alliance get away, and then it's like, well, no, because we placed a homing beacon. Because actually, we want to find out where their base is.
Yeah, we want to find where Terra is.
Yes. So, anyway, I absolutely fucking love this episode.
And the final scene. The Orko moment is...
Oh, it's Ty!
Ty, they're all hanging out in the bar, including Ty.
He said, like, no, I'm not going to drink.
Yeah.
I was only like that. because of that bitch.
Yeah.
And then
Adama
comes in.
and he's arm in arm with Tin Ear.
And he's like, Bill!
Well, you think about it, he's lost his boyfriend here, so he needs to drown his sorrows, because we'd already worked out these two were an item, so...
Well, yeah, Ty definitely fancied Adama and wanted
taking him to see the sports.
Yes, with all the man flesh, absolutely.
Poor Ty.
Aww.
Anyway, I'm sure it won't work out with Tin Ear anyway.
No, I'm sure it won't.
But yeah, it is a fantastic episode.
He's brilliant.
Badly needed, having a couple of bad ones, and this one's like, yes, this is it, you could do it. Basically, as soon as you put Baltar in an episode, it is gold.
But it's not just that. This wasn't written by Glenn A. Larson.
That's true as well. See you next episode.
Yeah, no, this was written by, you said Donald Baltasario, if I got that right?
Yes.
So, well done, Donald. You wrote a good one.
Yeah.
I love this. This is definitely one of my favourite episodes of this series. I found it fantastic.
Well, let's find out what other people thought. Doreen has this to say. Adama was using his speech-to-text software again. I bet dyslexics back in the late 70s would have been desperate to get hold of it. The council are interfering again at the beginning, perhaps we're in for a good episode. Wow, there are Klingons on the prison barge. More Klingon-looking than those on Kirk's Enterprise. Did Star Trek pinch one of Galactica's makeup people? What we need now is good diplomats, indeed. Okay, the end was action-packed. No brain. No, do not pull that string. Off brain off. Okay. Thanks, Doreen.
Thank you.
Think she enjoyed it.
And we've heard from Jeff. Hello, Jeff. He writes, greetings, Orbs. Now that you're big Hollywood stars, I hope you won't leave your podcasting behind for fame and fortune. It was really cool seeing you on the big screen in the excellent DS9 documentary, What We Left Behind.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, but we're not really big Hollywood stars.
Yes, we've yet to see ourselves on the big screen, although we are going to see the showing at the Prince Charles next month, aren't we? So
yes.
That will be freaky.
Yes, but fun. He says, on to this pair of episodes. Hopefully, I won't be let down again by spell-check immune mistakes that make me look like a complete fool.
Yay, the Easter Alliance. That
I
still
love
makes
the
me
Easter
laugh.
Alliance.
That's awesome.
Baltar's Escape was a lot of fun, primarily thanks to John Colicos turning in another gloriously over-the-top performance. His desperation to convince the hostages that he wasn't planning to kill them was a highlight. Absolutely. One of the most interesting things about classic Galactica has been the strong continuity, with this episode seeing the return of the proto-Klingon Nomen and picking up right where the last episode left off with the Easter... He puts the ending capitals alliance. There was even a continuation of the civilian versus military tension of Message from Earth, though the revelation that the fleet was still under martial law seems to contradict how much power the Council had in that previous episode. Speaking of the Council, that was probably the weakest part of the episode. They was written as so naive and power-hungry, it came across as cartoonish. That being said, I really like the character of Cyrus Tinia. She started as the standard civilian bureaucrat that thinks they know our hero's jobs better than they do, but she quickly subverted expectations and was just as courageous as Adama. Ty's barely disguised contempt was really amusing too. In the end, I thought he missed the obvious trick of dressing Apollo and Starbuck up as silent Centurions, but you can't always get what you want.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that as well. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Purry has this to say.
Hello, Orcs. Purry here to talk about Baltar's Escape, although as an episode goes, it actually missells it because, spoiler warning, Baltar doesn't escape. That said, we do get the excellent sight of Dinner Lady Baltar, and indeed this is how he starts concocting his escape, and the concept of this is actually pretty decent, and in fairness, the execution isn't bad either. We have a bit more background on the Terrans, particularly the Eastern Alliance, or the Space Nazis, who sure enough have Space Nazi-esque views. I really like the way they have been playing up how the Terrans use Earth terms. So things like when he says, when our commandant stereotype says, that they'll use hundreds of destroyers to take down the Galactica in the same way the wolf pack attacks the bear, and Adama's going, what's a bear? What's a wolf? I really like that sort of thing, the way they've kind of tied that in. And it's really leading up. The last 3 episodes have really been leading up to the idea that Terra could be Earth. This one's mainly the escape. What I also liked was there's actually a real feeling of continuity in this episode, because we've had imprisoned Baltar, and look, the pound shop Klingons, the No Men come back again. So we've got the No Men from that episode, we've got the Eastern Alliance, all kind of teaming up to potentially either take the Galactica or at least escape with the Council and hold them to ransom. And I actually thought the whole thing worked quite well. The subplot of the Council rescinding the martial law and taking it back, and the Council being idiots, again, this kind of friction really worked. What I think would have worked better with the Council in general would have been to have Sire Yuri there. It's actually, I thought, I've had the couple of times we've had Adama bumping heads with the Council, it would have been really good if there had been a kind of anti-Adama figurehead in the Council. As it is, you rarely have the same councillors twice. We did have the one who was telling them, not to do stuff and being a real pain, and then flipped round when actually things went wrong. And again, that was quite good that it wasn't she panicked or ran away. It was that she actually said, yes, okay, I see your point now, and the Council have actually been quite rubbish at this. So I thought that worked quite well. But yeah, overall, it worked quite. It had a decent sort of a run. You had the sort of almost comedy bit with the weird robot doctors taking apart all the Cylons, and Baltar's demanding to escape in his Cylon raider with his 2 Centurions. I mean, is that technically torturing prisoners? Yeah, I think we're in iffy moral areas there. The fact that the Doctor effectively dismantled 2 of his prisoners. If they'd been human or lizard people, would we have accepted it so much? But they went together, sort of. And yeah, by the end of the episode, yes, the Eastern Alliance people have escaped, but notably Baltar hasn't, so he's actually still a prisoner. His escape was thwarted. But yeah, and I mean, other good things. It's nice to have Sheba having something to do. It's nice to have Boomer. How terrible are Council security? They are just the worst. It's not just that they're rubbish at their jobs. It's like every single one of them's a crushing arsehole. Was this part of the interview technique? If you were nice, friendly, and or good at your job, no, you don't get the job as Council security. Are you an arrogant dick with no idea of how to actually execute your job? Yep. Well, then congratulations. Although I suppose you could argue all the competent ones join the Colonial Warriors. So really, your Council security are what was left. Are they kind of the people who are miffed that they didn't get into the army? Because that's what they look like. I think that's a bit of a revelation. But yeah, this one actually was quite decent. And yeah, you know how I said that there was almost at least a 3-part thing going here? I'm not actually going to call it a 4-part, but I'd say this would have worked slightly better as a series of parts with a running thread, and indeed that's how it more feels. It feels like we've got a season arc going, which is quite advanced if you think about it for the late 70s. So yeah, I found this one quite entertaining. So I'll be back shortly to talk about, was it the Terran Experiment? I'm going to call it the Terran Experiment, but until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, you're right, there is more continuity than you would expect.
Definitely.
I'm not sure it's quite an arc, but it for its time, it's a lot more than you would think, isn't it? Very good point about, is it torturing the Cylons? I don't know.
Well, they're technically only robots in this, so...
But are they sentient? It's not whether or not they're organic that's the issue.
If it wasn't for the fact that occasionally they go, uh-oh, before now, which is fairly sentient, but that's about it, really.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. I'm not sure it's clear cut. I'm not sure we're told. Do you know what I mean? So it could go either way. It could be that actually it is torture and they are sentient, but equally it could be that no, they're not. Whereas the stupid looking ones, like Lucifer, they are, aren't they? Mm-hmm. I think. Do you think Lucifer's sentient?
It kind of gives the impression, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But the Centurions are just robot troopers, aren't they, really? So.
Yeah. Good point, though. You would think that probably the Galactica hasn't even thought to ask the question.
And Pink Lady Baltar.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, definitely. Pink Lady Baltar. Yeah, dinner lady. Do you think that all the security are warrior rejects?
It wouldn't surprise me, yes. Certainly, I mean, Greasy Reese is terrible.
Oh, he is. He's bad. Very bad. Thank you. Who else we heard from? Drew and Tracy, what did they think?
This is feedback for Baltars Escape.
Hurrah! Baltars back!
Yeah, that was good.
Well, I did ask for like a bit more action and some Cylons.
Yep.
So we did get them. Not that I'm going to like jump to the end, but we did get a bit of Baltar and
yes.
some more Cylons in this episode. So thank fuck for that.
Although saying what we got in this episode, when we was watching the beginning, the pre-credit sequence, and and it's like, not them. They're not. Oh, no.
Fucking Nazi commander. Commandant, even.
Commander. The Commandant.
What a cock. Baltar on mess hall duty.
I know.
Loved it.
We was really laughing.
Let's just like go back. So he's in prison. I love those prison doors with the big holies in them. You know, I've got really small arms. I would be able to get through that. I'd be able to like get through and like open the door.
Open the door, yeah.
But yeah, so they pulled him on mess hall duty again, and I love the fact that he was wearing his long arm green gloves.
He's got like velvet gloves, and he's
to serve like what looked like
ladling out soup. And he had a penny on as well. It's just hilarious stuff, isn't it?
My dad used to wear pennies.
I know. Hilarious.
Cyrus Tenia.
I know.
What kind of fucking name is that?
Yeah. And like the rest of the council, absolute idiots. It's like cartoonly bad, wasn't it? It's like, oh no, we mustn't send any security there. Oh no, don't put any security on the shuttle.
You are not allowed to go to the shuttle bay.
No, don't put any shuttle bay security. It's
Fucking
just,
idiots.
it's ridiculous, really, isn't it? No one can be that stupid.
I don't know why they just didn't lamp her in the face and put her in.
But it wasn't her, was it? It's the whole council.
No, but she was there, kind of giving the orders. You just need to get that woman off the bridge and put her into fucking confinement and like get on and do your job, Adama.
Did you not think, you know, when they got out of the prison, the Nomen and all that lot, and they just like had all their equipment with them, didn't they? Like the Nomen had their balls and the space.
Oh, yeah.
The space Nazis had their helmets. So they're keeping all the equipment on the prison barge. That's not where you'd want to keep all their guns and that.
But how did they find the prison barge?
No, they was on the prison barge in prison, and then they got out,
but
and
how
immediately.
Did they find the prison store then?
Yeah, so they're keeping all their gear there.
Exactly, that's
not a good plan.
Stupid. They were lumping them balls again, weren't they?
There was, yeah.
What is with these no man's cone heads, pyramid hats?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Don't know.
I'm afraid I saw a little bit of glue with the eyebrows on this episode today.
That was his real eyebrows. It's not glued on.
Once I've seen it, I can't unsee it. No, it's not real. The council security man talking to Boomer like he's a piece of shit on his shoe. He needs to take a step back. It doesn't need to be shitty, mate.
But the security council people were like taking after the council of 12.
Yeah,
like,
but just because you got your David Cassidy hairdo going
on, cartoonly bad on them all, isn't it? They're just like we've deliberately got to like see that anyone from the council is a baddie.
Yeah, but Galactica are not from the council.
No, but all the council people and all the people under them are baddies. And like are against anything that the goodies, all like the colonial warriors do.
They don't have to talk to Boomer like that, do they?
No,
bastards.
So overall, not bad episode. I thought it's a lot of silliness, but it's all right.
Yeah, so they tricked like Baltar on the shuttle with the Cylon who just punched the screen.
Yeah, I know.
What was that about? It was good to see like the Cylons back again. I have missed them. This is why I like Battlestar Galactica. I want to see a fucking Cylon. I don't want to like see a Pansy episode with Cassiopeia and whatever. Yep. Although she's good, but you know they've had some like Pansy episodes lately. No, fed up with it.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. It's all right. Not bad.
Mediocre.
Yep.
How many left? 3? Yeah, let's hope they get a bit fucking more exciting than this. Anyway, leave it there.
Okay.
Alright, crack-a-lackin'. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. You are... Never mind me thinking of the holes in the prison doors as glory holes.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you're so right. If your arms are thin enough, you can just fucking get out. Like, what is that? And yeah, proper velvet gloves for Baltar to ladle out soup.
Yeah, well, you know, he's
all class,
he's
isn't
all
he?
class and style, yeah.
Yes.
With his green velour
yes.
coat.
And good point as well. If the people you've arrested came with weapons and shit. Maybe not keep it in the same place as them.
They all raid the room, don't they, really quickly and get all their stuff. Really?
That's not that clever, is it, really?
Is it equivalent of knowing whether the teachers kept all the stuff they'd taken off you?
All the stuff they confiscated?
Yeah. It was all kept in the same cupboard, wasn't it?
Although Miss Huxtable used to wear makeup she confiscated off her pupils. You never wanted back after that.
Right, okay.
Thank you. I've missed the Cylons too. I like Cylons.
And the Llama God.
Oh, and here this warning. Don't mess around with the space balls and the masters of space. Don't mess around with the space balls. Alright, so here we are then back with Baltar's Escape. Now, what could this drama record possibly be about? I don't know, let me think. Well, this is quite good, actually, because this is a follow-on from the previous episode. I don't think any of us were actually particularly happy about the previous double-length, two-part, or whatever it was. And because it was a bit lame, it didn't go anywhere. But here, we're actually getting a bit of a follow-up, and it's not that bad, actually. I mean, part of that is because it's all condensed into one episode, and also because it brings together 3 existing storylines. We've got, obviously, the space analogues for whoever it is they're supposed to be. It's hard to kind of figure out who the guys wearing black Nazi uniforms are meant to be, but never mind. So we've got those from last time, we've got Baltar being in prison, and also we've got the pound shop Klingons. And here we're kind of logically throwing everything together, because all these people have ended up in the same place, and the story writers actually make use of this. So this is actually quite good, not having a missed opportunity. We're not just going, okay, well, all these people are locked up in prison, and we're going to go for another space western or space He-Man adventure or something, although that would also been cool. And this is the kind of inevitable episode, really, because, Baltar's locked up, so what's he going to do next? He's going to try and escape. Of course he is. And you could argue that he's been put in this position by Count Iblis, so there's been a bit of divine grace in him ending up in this position with just the tools that he needs to actually effect his escape. Obviously, if he was being completely divinely looked after, he wouldn't be there in the first place. But, angelic beings in unconvincing white costumes do move in mysterious ways. So, it's interesting to see that they've actually got Baltar on mess duty. It's also interesting to see that he's actually still allowed to wear his velour, and that everyone's just allowed to mess around and talk. What's also really dubious is that they've still all got the see-through glory hole doors, which, wouldn't be any use as a glory hole, because you're not supposed to be able to see what the other side. That's the point. As people I know have told me. Anyway, people who know people I know. Anyway, moving on. But not only do they have those rather security-free doors, but then a load of the characters stand out in the corridor discussing fleet politics right in front of the prisoners. I mean, okay, that's so that the story can actually get underway and everything, but that's not very bright of them. You think they'll be better than that? Still, they might be very bright, but then the Council of 12 is even less bright. As was hinted at last time, we've got a continuation of the fact that Dharma is still in charge of the fleet, but the Council of 12 want their power back. And as has been brought up in this podcast, there's quite a lot of power residing in that one man. We're just lucky that he is a good man. And he's such a good man in this episode that even after realising what's going to happen, he gracefully accepts the Council's decision, because that's the kind of man he is. He serves the fleet. He's not a power-hungry dictator. He's not even in a position where he thinks that he's better than everyone else, even though he clearly is, but he respects the rule of law, whatever that rule of law is in the colonies. And he just allows it, and that is very reassuring and refreshing to see. And sure, by the end he gets that power back again, but that's not because the military is right or anything, it's just because the rest of them are so bloody inept that you couldn't really argue with the decision to give power back to a Dharma anyway. It's like, Christ, what position do they put them in? But ultimately, this is a fun little romp as Baltar does try to escape and uses all the tools at his disposal, and taking advantage of the fact that he knows that the Council are now running things and they're going to fuck things up as best they can. What was very nice to see is that Baltar threatens to blow up the hostages, but then it becomes clear later on that he wasn't actually planning on doing that. When the Omen or the Nazis, I forget which one I always say, you're going to blow up the prisoners anyway, won't you? The look on Baltar and his response is kind of like, no, why would he do that? He's a traitor, but he's not that much of a traitor. I don't know, he still remains a complex and puzzling character, and it's a shame that I guess one never grew to get to the bottom of what he was all about. The only questionable thing about the episode really is the colonial fleet's treatment of its Cylon prisoners. They dismantle them. That's what? I can't remember what sort of level of sentience the Cylon Centurions are meant to have, but I think we've established they've got some sort of level of intelligence and self-awareness, and dissecting them is like, were they going to be vivisecting the pound shop Klingons next to see what made their honour work or something? I don't know, that's very bizarre, and it's slightly uncomfortable. What's really disappointing is the fact that after discovering that they couldn't get them back together and fully operational properly, is that I assumed that what would happen is that Starbuck and Apollo would put on the Centurion armour and then pretend to be the Cylons, and that's how they take them out. Instead, they just hide in a cupboard, which was a bit of a weird climax, but there you go. But in all, this was an enjoyable romp, and it's obviously setting up things for the future, because they let the space Nazis go, and then they're going to follow them to wherever it is they're headed. So let's see how long it takes for that one to play out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also brought up the idea of Cylon torture.
Yeah. As I say, I don't think they've really given much indication the Centurions are particularly sentient beyond the occasional uh-oh.
Yeah.
So I think, and just judging by what you see in this episode, that they're apparently just robots, so meh. I mean, let's face it was a fairly common thing, because it was a kid show if only robots ever got killed. So if you killed somebody with sentience, then that was a bit more of an issue, but yeah.
And it does kind of feel a little bit of a weird climax. I know they make a point of we're letting them go because we're training them, but it does it feels a little bit odd, doesn't it?
Well, the hiding in the cover business is very true, yes.
Yeah.
Surprise! Oh, God. Oh, you two again.
Oh, yeah. and you're right. Although he could be a dictator, a Dharma isn't.
No.
He hasn't got a problem with accepting that the council are in charge. He's got a problem with the fact that the people in charge are idiots.
Yeah, well, the problem is the council keep interfering with what is obviously military business
stuff, and it's a lot actually. And it's they've gone too far the other way. You kind of feel like you can't have martial law anymore, and it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And they're trying to do too much, and it's not right. Not right at all. But it's a good episode.
Yes, but you're quite right. It does lead us straight into the next episode, and whether that's good or not, well, we're about to find out as we get Experiment in Terra.
That's a play on words, you know.
It is.
We're heading directly into a war zone.
What happens to the people on Terra can affect us as well as you and your people. You have got to help them.
An unidentified flying craft entered our airspace.
Stand by to launch all missiles.
Come in, Starbuck. Computron readout shows them to be armed devices of some nuclear type.
Come in, Viper 4.
Yes, so Experiment in Terra, which is a variation on the 1962 film Experiment in Terra.
Oh, okay.
T-R-O-R. That's where that comes from, apparently.
So they nicked the plot?
No, they just nicked the title.
Oh, okay.
But it would have rung bells, I guess, for the 1970s viewers.
Yeah, I would think so.
A Dharmas Log reveals that 7 sectars have passed since the captives escaped in last week's episode.
What's a sector? Have we worked that out yet?
It used to be a measurement of distance, but apparently now it's time.
Oh.
Go figure.
Like a parsec, then.
Blue Squadron are caught up with the Easter Alliance, but the shiny ship from War of the Gods has caught up with Apollo and beams him aboard, sticking him in the white suit again, so they get to use those again. More of those in the future. And he meets John.
I think it's time you met someone. Hello.
It's just a wonderful, surreal moment.
Really is bizarre.
Did you recognise him at all?
I'm sorry, I was too busy laughing. I mean, this was so funny that we actually paused it, called our kids down, and then showed them the clip again. This was just, yeah.
So it's Edward Mulhari, who played Michael Knight's boss, Devon Miles.
Right. Knight Rider,
yeah.
I only have very, very vague memories of.
Okay. Well, he tells Apollo he needs to help the Terrans by stopping a war. Okay. Starbuck sends Boomer back to take charge of Blue Squadron whilst he goes to get Apollo, who's appeared millions of miles away. On Terra, we meet unlikely named Brenda.
Oh, God. Doesn't suit her at all.
No, she does not look a Brenda. Maxwell. You recognised her, at least.
Yes, Dale Arden.
Yes, it's Melody Anderson.
Flash, I love you, but we only have 14 hours to save the Earth.
Also Brooke, of course, in Manimal.
God, I'd forgotten that.
Yep. To her, Apollo appears as Colonel Charlie Watts in a sort of Quantum Leap fashion. And interestingly, writer of the previous episode, Donald B. Ballicero, went on to create Quantum Leap.
Oh, wonder where he got his idea
well,
from.
he denies being inspired by this episode, but
itchy chin, itchy chin.
Yeah, this is a Glenn A. Larson episode though, so the plot just ends. It just
no, it does. It's bad.
Things just happen. None of the characters get properly sketched out. Things just occur. Anyway, Brenda takes him back to her apartment, which is quite a nice set to give them their due. Although some of the decor is a bit weird.
It's all the baubles. What the fuck is with that?
Glowing spheres and bare tree branches, apparently. She goes and alerts the authorities. Meanwhile, John appears with another
hello
and tells Apollo he has access to the Presidium, apparently. Brenda reappears in one of Dale Arden's bride's dresses, I'm pretty sure, from Flash Gordon. But she can't see John. He tells Apollo he's currently in a protective state, but no longer will be once his uniform returns to its natural colour. I don't know why he bothers saying this, because it doesn't happen.
Now,
it's like a setup for tension. You think, ooh, at some point his uniform's going to go brown and it's all going to be... But no, it never happens.
Now, you see, I thought that I was just too drunk by this point and I'd missed it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't.
It's an ant.
No, well...
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Officer Brace appears, not that he's named on screen, with another security dude and takes Apollo away. Meanwhile, in the Presidium, which is a building from the 67 Montreal Expo again, and will crop up as the Earth Directorate in Buck Rogers, we meet the President with no name. I mean, he's President Arends in the script, but he's never named again on the script. It's just like, can't even be bothered to give these characters names. It's just not important, apparently.
He was just so weird, though, wasn't he? With his white hair and white tash, and was it sort of peachy-coloured clothing?
Orangey suit. Yeah.
It's just odd.
Yes. He sends his aide to ensure that Charlie's discovery is covered up.
Now, his aide reminded me... And actually, the whole orangeness thing reminded me of, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Demolition Man, where the main dude wears orange, and then he has this sort of obsequious aide.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. No, it's not the same actor as that.
No, I didn't think he was, but that's what it was. In my mind, it was reminiscent.
Ah. We learn the President is working for peace with the Easter Alliance, but the Presidium wants war. Meanwhile, on the Galactica, Adama tells the fleet he's abandoning them to go after his 2 lost Vipers on Terra. Yes, he's leaving them a couple of squadrons of Vipers as protection, but that still seems a bit wrong somehow, just to go after 2 Vipers. I mean, admittedly, one of them's his son, but yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't sure about this at the time. I was in 2 minds, because he wouldn't have done this when they were under threat of Cylon attack.
No, I suppose arguably they've left the Cylons behind.
They've left that behind, and one of the arguments the Council had was that he wasn't the right person to lead them to Earth. He wasn't the right person to lead them during peace, and maybe in a way he's trying to demonstrate that actually he is, by saying, actually, you're not under immediate threat right now. I'll leave you some people just in case, but actually, this could be Earth. I'm off to look, kind of thing.
Anyway, they go to light speed for the first time in a long while, apparently. Starbuck...
Have we actually seen and heard light speed before?
Not sure.
Okay.
Starbuck finds Apollo's Viper and a message telling him where he's gone. Then he's discovered by 2 searchlights, like you get at the start of Aliens. I'm not sure if they're supposed to represent vehicles. There's a sort of vague propeller attached to one of them. It's all very odd. And then all these troops turn up, but they can't be riding on the lights, so I don't quite know what's going on here.
Riding on the lights.
No.
Sorry.
Anyway, these nationalist troops are led by a familiar voice.
Yes, and I hadn't got a fucking clue who he was. I have to be honest. I'm like, I know that voice, and you're like, yes. And then I had no pissing clue until literally the end credits.
And to be fair, he's wearing his crash helmet the entire time. But this is John Delancey, a.k.a. Q. Starbuck stuns them all with a couple of shots. Not something we've seen their blasters do before. Brenda's lost father turns up. He's General Maxwell. And he's been on a secret mission for the Presidium, who suspect the President has surrendered all their satellite planets as part of peace talks, apparently. You get all this info dump all the way through, because you've never seen these people before.
Thing is, though, Brenda's dad dude has got really awful hair.
He has, yes. General Maxwell hasn't got the greatest hair, but and he's got a strange sort of military cardigan as well.
I know.
She tells him that Charlie is back. Apparently he was on Luna 1 when they attacked, and would be the proof they need to expose the President's deception. She reveals she called security, who then turn up and arrest them both, throwing them in with Apollo, who protests he's not Charlie, and there's another dude we find out is called Stone. But he's just a random dude in the cells. It's weird. Starbuck turns up at the security complex, and John appears to him with another "Hello."
It cracks me up each time.
Turning him white in the process. John complains about his lot being unable to interfere, which just reminded me of the Doctor complaining about when the Time Lords sent him on missions.
That's actually exactly what it made me think of. Sorry, too drunk. Exactly what it made me think of.
Starbuck breaks in and releases Apollo and the others, who realise he is indeed not Charlie. They go to the Presidium, and Brenda takes Starbuck to his Viper so he can contact the Galactica. John reveals the Easter Alliance is planning a surprise attack on the Nationalists. And then we go to the Easter Alliance War Room, which is a somewhat cheaper looking one than the one in Dr Strangelove, but this is definitely an influence on this one.
Oh, absolutely.
They have an unnamed Führer, who's played by Nehemiah Persoff, who you won't recognise because the only time we see him was under an awful lot of makeup. But he was Palor Toff in Next Generation's The Most Toys. The guy with the extra nostril that you picked. Remember him?
No.
The dude who was going to buy data from... what was it?
Kivas Farjo.
Kivas Farjo, that's
I
it.
remember the episode.
Yeah.
I don't remember extra nostril-picking man.
Right. Anyway, he's a charming chap talking about their overpopulation problem being solved by losses due to reprisals.
This whole thing is so Dr Strangelove, though, isn't it?
Yeah. President Orange Suit announces he has a piece of paper agreeing peace in our time. Wonder what that might be riffing on. It's supposed to be this is the Presidium we're seeing, apparently, but it looks more like an audience at a game show, to be honest. Apollo addresses the Assembly, telling them about the story of the colonies, explaining the show's philosophy of freedom through strength. Just underlining all that.
Yeah.
Then we get the Führer ordering missiles on standby, and we get stock footage of missiles in readiness, followed by more stock footage of launches of various types of missiles.
And it's just so blatantly stock footage as well.
Yep. General Maxwell informs the President, and we find out it's all very Strangelove mutual destruction as the nationalist missiles will launch automatically in response. John tells Starbuck that he needs to contact the Galactica and get it to shoot down the missiles, which it does with a weird green ray effect that encircles the planet.
Weird.
Wow, that's a hugely powerful thing they've got, but... Maxwell tries to get answers from Apollo about their technology, but John wisely counsels him not to. And he also tells Apollo that Terra, after all, is not Earth. Okay. Yes. Originally, when written, the parts of Apollo and Starbuck in this were reversed, but they were swapped over at the insistence of Richard Hatch, who didn't want his character seeming to play second fiddle to his co-star. Remind you of anybody?
Shatner?
Yeah.
Is Richard Hatch first build then?
Yes.
I'm surprised Lord Green isn't first build.
I think, isn't Lorne Green a with or an and?
Ah.
Yeah.
The Mark Strong butt game.
Exactly, yes. So there we go. It's not completely terrible. It's not boring. It's just that the guest parts, with the exception of John, are really not very well written. And arguably, John isn't well written. He's just really well played. He makes the most of his...
Hello.
Yeah.
The characters are all just ciphers to explain the plot.
They are.
Brenda disappears 2/3 of the way through once she's taken Starbuck to his Viper. That's it. Bye. Never seen you again.
Yeah.
And we don't get to know any of them long enough to be concerned about what happens to their planet, which isn't, after all, Earth anyway, so... It's a colossal dead end, really, isn't it?
It is, and it just really fits with... Did you read the blog thing that I think it was Wayne put up?
This is Glenn A. Larson writing
Yeah.
Route 101, yeah. He's just writing stuff and then it ends.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, it's...
And the fact that you could just flip-flop Apollo and Starbuck over as easily as that just goes to show that he's not even writing particularly well for the regulars either.
No, I'm not sure anybody is well written in this at all.
No. It is badly written.
Yes. But I did have a massive laugh every time.
Hello.
Yes.
No.
There's that scene when Apollo's looking in the mirror and you just expect him to say, oh boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was not as good as the previous episode, I think it's fair to say. But yeah,
it had some laughs in it.
Yes, it wasn't the worst this season's had to offer us.
I think the downside is, honestly, the laughs were at the episode's expense.
Yeah, they weren't by design, I don't think.
Yeah. But I had fun with it anyway.
Yes.
We've heard from Doreen, who writes, during the White Angelic scenes, I asked Anthony who the older man was, and we had our own "Who are you?" moment. Edward Moore or Devon Miles, as he's best known.
Mm-hmm.
Devon Miles.
From Knight Rider.
Ah, right, sorry. Too young. Sorry.
Sorry, that was me giving her evils, by the way, which doesn't work well on a podcast. But
no, to be fair. Anthony wasn't actually watching the episode, but he certainly had a reaction, a nostalgia reaction. And suddenly we were in Quantum Leap, except not with Samuel. What velocity? Light speed? But sir, light speed? Not light speed, sir, light speed? Has the president of Terra's outfit escaped from the set of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? It is bad. It's proper bad. Mutually assured destruction live on screen. Wow, Apollo's just managed to comply with the Prime Directive. Far better than any Star Trek captain. Sorry to anyone who only listens to this broadcast and not the ones with the Star Trek references. Thank you, Doreen. Yeah, and yeah, I do think the President's outfit is out of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. I nearly said the Funklet Chakri. I have had perhaps too many hobgoblins.
Maybe. Jeff Hyman has this to say: in Experiment in Terra, Apollo is taken by the Ship of the Light to replace a missing astronaut on Terra. While there, everyone sees him as Charlie. He has a companion who pops in to give him guidance that only he can see, and he's attempting to put right something that will go wrong. I think co-producer and occasional writer Donald P. Belisario was taking notes during this episode to come up with Quantum Leap a few years down the road. I have no idea why the advanced beings went this route, as it got Apollo jailed almost immediately, and he only made any kind of contribution to resolve the crisis as Apollo. Really, all he did was convince them to pursue an actual peace with the Eastern Alliance after the Galactica had arrived, and saved the day by using a strangely realised laser effect to avert nuclear Armageddon. Yeah, basically, Galactica rocks up and solves the problem, doesn't it? Nitpicks aside, it was a pretty fun episode, and Dale Arden was in it, yes.
Yes, she was.
Driving me crazy when she first appeared, and I couldn't quite place her, but a quick IMDb search sorted that out. There were also a few other familiar faces. 2 guest stars from the original series Devil in the Dark and Bread and Circuses, and one face that we didn't see, but John Delance's voice was unmistakable. Yes.
I'm sorry. I recognised it, but I wouldn't describe it as unmistakable because I didn't know who it was until he told me. Sorry.
There we are.
What did the Llama God think?
Right then, so we actually do have a continuation of the previous drama record, don't we? As we actually follow the Space Nazis back to Space Nazi land. And not only that, it's a continuation of other storylines as well. I mean, I was very surprised when the Kryptonian angels suddenly reappear and Apollo discovers that he's put too much bleach in the washing machine. That very much took me off guard. But it's great to see that they're following up on strands from previous drama records, and we're actually progressing the general overall plot. But that's something that I'd have been quite surprised to see happen, especially if you think back to the days of the space westerns using, or anything set on one of the spare lots on the Universal backlot. Up front, unfortunately, this isn't quite as interesting or exciting as the previous drama record. There's just something about it feels a bit flat. The most exciting thing is about actually seeing all the guest stars in this episode. There's What's-His-Face from Knight Rider, there's What's-Her-Face from Flash Gordon, and there's even What's-His-Face from Star Trek. It's Q himself. He's hidden under a helmet, and not even the voice gave it away, and I had to go back through the episode to find out when I saw the credits saying Guard John Delancey, but that was something unexpected, and to find out this whole episode is a nexus of a whole load of things, although mostly it's a nexus of Glenn A. Larson shows, and that shouldn't be at all surprising given previous story retellings. But yeah, the overall plot of this is interesting, as we do finally end up at Terra, and is it the end of the journey? It's kind of left a bit vague until the very end when we found out that no it's not. It had the potential to be a tense episode, because we've got the Space Nazis declaring war on the Space USA. I'm guessing that's who it is. Although, could you really imagine the President of the United States of America being dressed as quite such a porn star as we've got here? Yeah, okay, let's leave out anything. And instead of painting this as a complex geopolitical scenario, we've instead just got the Space Nazis saying, yeah, we're going to launch missiles and we have acceptable losses. So clearly they're bad guys from the outset. But quite why the President of Space USA is engaging in peace talks, but obviously that's a weakness because he's not going to war, and there's something going on, but to be honest, it kind of takes a backseat and you never really figure out what the importance of this peace talks were. I mean, admittedly, at the end, the actions of the Galactica do mean that the two opposing sides have to sit down and talk it out, and so maybe there's some sort of progression of peace there, but how they ended up in there in the first place is never really communicated. Instead, we just get lots and lots of shots of Apollo being really quite crap at doing the whole quantum leap thing. And I would say that clearly this is an inspiration for Quantum Leap, but isn't it also this kind of a retelling of Highway to Heaven or something? I'm sure that probably predates this, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Starbuck has leapt into a body and he has a face that is not his own, except it is his own, except they can't be bothered to hire another actor to play him. And instead he just stumbles around giving the game away all the bloody time. He's absolutely useless. He might be a good pilot, he might be a good warrior, but he is not a good undercover stealth spy person. They really picked the wrong guy for the job. I mean, given that he's perceived as being someone that he's not, they should have picked Boomer or even Sheba. Any of them would have been a lot more competent than Apollo is at this. I guess what is interesting is that we finally find out what the Galactica as a battle star, it's called a battle star, what it's actually capable of when, upon discovering that all-out war is imminent, it approaches the planet with ramming speed essentially, and then unleashes the space spirograph onto the planet, and with its rotating hypnotic lines, it hypnotizes the missiles into exploding above the atmosphere. We've seen it launching nukes a couple of times, but we've never really seen the full potential of the battle star in action, so this was actually really good to see. And in the end, its actions were for good. Are we meant to assume that whilst ostensibly being led to their their destination by the interstellar personal automatic salesman, that they're also doing work along the way. Are they actually now instruments of these godlike beings? Are they going to be spreading peace throughout the galaxy wherever they go? Because Terra was not somewhere where the colonial fleet needed to go to, but these angel beings kind of used them to intervene anyway. And I don't know whether there's any actual immediate benefit to the colonial fleet. So yeah, I mean, would this have been a storyline as the series has actually progressed? Would we actually seen them helping out other worlds along the way? Would they have suddenly become this force for good, putting right what once went wrong, or something like that? It's interesting to see. It's an interesting idea behind this episode, but as I say, something about the execution just felt a bit flat, and it wasn't quite as entertaining as the previous drama record. But yeah, okay, I'll leave that there. This pair of drama records was definitely a lot more entertaining than the previous two-parter, double-length, whatever it was. And so, yeah, definitely a return to form here. And whilst I'd say it'd be interesting to see where they go with this, there's only 2 left as well in the series. So, yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see when the conclusion is, unless I've counted my discs wrong. Alright, well, I guess we'll find out how this all comes to an end next time. And until then, I'm looking forward to hearing what say we all.
The Space Spirograph, yes. It's a good name for it.
Yeah. I'm so glad it wasn't just me who didn't recognise John Delancey. I can kind of see the parallels with Trump, but then weirdo orange space president then goes, what do you think? Trump would never do that.
No, that's true, yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. What did Drew and Tracy make of this?
This is feedback for Experiment In Terra. Hello!
Hello! Oh, it's so good to see Devon, wasn't it? When he came up in the credits...
Camp, isn't he?
Yeah, naturally. But he's an English 70s actor, isn't he? So he's going to be... He's either going to be a baddie or he's going to be camp.
Yes.
But when he came up in the credits, we were like, yay! And then it took us a fucking lifetime to remember
what his name was in Knight Rider,
Yeah. So... Let me just start off by saying, what the fuck was going on in this episode? This was nuts.
Well, yes. Yeah, they've obviously run out of good stories, haven't they?
I don't quite understand why they
crashing towards the end.
Why they had to turn white. What was that about?
Because they had the uniforms for the other episode and they needed to use the props going on, I guess.
Fine. So Starbuck,
yes,
in pursuit of one of his bestest friends in the world, lands on Terra, and instantly there's like 6, I'm going to call them BMX bandits, because they had BMX helmets on, to be fair. They were the BMX bandits. But before he'd encountered them, he says, I'm going to set my phaser, that's his Star Trek talk, I know, to stun. So he shoots them all. They're dead looking to me, to be fair. And then he shoots at the floor, didn't he?
He shot at the machines.
Yeah, and they blow up. So that's not stunning, my friend. That's like kabloomy.
Yep.
What's that about?
I don't know.
So just to set the scene.
Yep.
Brenda.
Yep.
In whatever period of time, her dad's gone MIA.
Yes.
And she's lost Charlie, her love, because he's left her and he's been gone 6 weeks. But he doesn't know that her dad's MIA, right?
No.
So she's not getting any sympathy there. And then all of a sudden, her doorbell goes and there's her dad walking through.
Yes.
And she's just like, gee, father, you're alive.
Yeah.
If that had been me, I'd scream my head off in shock, the fact that you've seen your dad for the first time and he's alive now. There was no tears or nothing.
It was a little bit
there?
low-key,
It
definitely.
was just a bit 70s, underacting, no real story there. I just thought that was really rubbish.
Yep, it was. The whole thing was rubbish, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just
the Eastern Alliance. Why do they keep making these baddies look like Nazis?
Well, they've been baddies in about the last 3 episodes.
But they still make them look like Nazis.
Yeah, they're just baddies, aren't they? All with their leather gloves and everything around the
and their dark visors on their helmets.
Yeah. It's just, very random again, and it's like someone's just really got half an idea and stretching it over the episode, really.
You said there's 2 more, don't you?
Yes.
Unless they do it in the next, couple, which is going to be... Well, I don't know, I don't want to do a spoiler, but I just think, they're never going to fucking find Earth, are they? And if they do it in the last 2 episodes, it's just you've saved all your creative writing until, the last minute.
Well, I'm guessing, though, that would be, the final part of the story, wouldn't it, to get to Earth? So, maybe the last episode, I have to see.
I don't know.
But, yeah, Not great once again. Not terrible, but not great either.
No, but there was hardly... This is just, for me, it sells of, oh, you know, we're coming to the end of, like, this season, you know, we've got two big stars, Richard Hatch and, what's his name?
Dirk
Benedict or something?
Yeah. I think so.
And they have to kind of get them some action.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you've ignored everybody else. I mean, who else was in this episode? Boomer was in it for like about 10 seconds. It was just rubbish.
Yeah, not great.
I didn't enjoy this one.
Let's leave it there, though.
Alright then. Next one?
Yep.
Next two?
Yep.
Alright. Take it easy. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, definitely random. Half an idea strung out.
Yeah, and the whole, Father, you're alive. And now I'm just going to carry on as though, you know, maybe you just spilt some coffee or something. You know, no big hug, no tears, no just like, oh, Father, you're alive. And now you can tell me what's going on and everything is normal now.
And I'm not blaming Melody Anderson for that. I'm blaming the writing.
Yeah.
Pure and simple. It's just terrible. And finally, we hear from the Pie Man.
Hello again, Parry here to talk about Experiment in Terra, not the Terran experiment. That's a whole different thing. So they finally make it to Terra, and again, you know, we finally see Terra, which is it's kind of a close off, well, potentially not, but it feels like a close off of this arc. We also have another callback, which again is good. We're getting this long-running thread where Apollo gets back on board the big glowy ship, only to find out that one of the angels called, was it John? I assume he's a saint. Is, of course, Devon from Knight Rider. So, not content with helping Michael Knight, one man, make a difference, he has to then mix his show metaphors and quantum leap Apollo into someone else's face, where he then hangs around being Al, and Apollo has to go on to Terra and try to prevent an atomic war. I have to say, Sam Beckett never quite got a case like that. What it did do was it did give them a chance to use those white uniforms they'd made earlier, so glad to see those didn't go to waste. I hate seeing stuff like that wasted. And it's good to see Terra, that we've actually got a close on it and kind of a bit more about what's happening here. And indeed, the fact that the whole thing could well have been Earth. You know, it was perfectly plausible for this to be Earth some years in the future. We have human names, we have things that look at least vaguely like Earth cars. Well, we don't quite see too much. It's got more lights, but then in the future everything would have more lights on it. That's what we thought. And basically they go around, I think possibly the only problem is Apollo's really bad at being Sam Beckett, for starters, and you never quite got an idea of what was going on in Terra. Again, maybe if we'd had this mixed in with another episode, kind of leading one on to the other, because the Terran plot to me seemed a bit undercooked. Also, the Galactica now fire a big green laser from its front that destroys, when I say a whole of nukes, in truth, both sides in this war launched all the stock footage they could find at each other and sent that stock footage arcing across the skies to destroy their enemies. But yeah, Galactica can fire a big green laser now, apparently. That's a thing. But overall, I liked the effort they made. I liked kind of the way they did keep the Terra mystery as Terra Earth, and they made it perfectly plausible up until the end, where I want to call Michael, but I'm sure he's John. I think possibly I'm going to a good place. But where he's kind of saying, is that thing of, no, this isn't Earth. It's similar but not quite. But yeah, so that was a bit of a kind of way to reveal it wasn't. I think I'd have liked a different way to reveal it wasn't Earth. Something like halfway through the night a second moon pops up in the sky or something would have been a nice way of doing it. But overall, again, this one passed the time. Maybe not. I think I enjoyed Baltar's Escape, but you start wondering, is this because we had Baltar? But it was nice to see throwbacks. It was nice to see references to previous episodes. It just makes the series feel a bit more, a bit more like a sort of modern series rather than a series of individual episodes. And it's nice to have these callbacks and references. So I think both of these did quite well, at least in making me feel like I was watching an arc plot, even though it doesn't really have an arc plot. But I think it definitely shows the series had a couple of ideas over its time and wasn't afraid to reference its kind of past, which I thought worked really well. So yeah, overall, I've got no real complaints about these episodes. Quite a nice, I think a decent couple. in there. So I don't know if we're at the end of the Terran plot. It does feel that way. So we'll see what the last 2 episodes are, and then that's us going on to Galactica 1980. So brace yourselves, guys. But all that remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always enjoy the podcast, and I look forward to the next episode. So until then, bye for now.
Bye. Bye, sir. Yeah, it's like Galactica has the big green laser of destroying stock footage.
Yes,
isn't it?
basically.
Really, that's what it has.
Comes
and what
in
it
very
does.
handy.
Yes. You're right. It would have been much better to reveal that Terra wasn't Earth by something like having a second moon.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah.
It would have been. Apollo is a very bad son.
Yeah. Well, bless him. He's completely lost, isn't he?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it was originally going to be Starbuck, who usually is the more clueless of the two, so it would fit him far better, actually.
Yeah. It also looks-wise, you think about it, you think of what's-his-face, whose name I've just forgotten, because I can only remember the character name of Archer. But they're both blonde, aren't they? The physical look is more similar between Starbuck and whatever his name is.
I suppose, but anyway, supposedly he wasn't the writer.
Sorry. Allegedly, not really. Yeah, good point. Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for your feedback.
Thank you.
Next time we shall be covering the final 2 episodes of this first season of Battlestar Galactica, before then turning our gaze onto 1980.
Which I have not watched as an adult. I saw it as a child. I haven't seen it since.
Anyway, more of that later. But next time we're recording will be Tuesday the 28th of May, so a bit earlier than usual, just because we've got a lot on that week. And they are the episodes Take the Celestra and The Hand of God.
Oh, Maradona.
Yes. So anyway, we shall see how the season ends with those 2 episodes. Over on our other podcast, on the Star Trek one, we'll be recording on Wednesday the 29th of May. And that'll be me and Andy looking at 11001001, which I've just watched today and really regretted. So I can see why you passed on that.
Yes.
And Too Short a Season, which I remember being really bad. So yay! That's an encouragement for you there if you want to join in with that crap fest of season 1 of Next Generation.
Hint. Do what I'm doing. Listen to the podcast. Enjoy their pain. Don't watch the shit.
Yeah, I couldn't blame you. Right, we'll catch you next time. Cheerio by your leave.
Bye. The music at the beginning of this podcast was arranged and performed by Drew Barker.
All other music is used for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
The artwork for Borgcast Galactica was created by Lee Metcalf.
To contact us, send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Contact us via Twitter at rev_org or broadcastammo. #Borgcast.
Visit our website at galactica.libsyn.com.
Or view images relating to our cast on our Tumblr site, broadcast.tumblr.com.
There's also a Spotify playlist with all our play-out tunes on it.
Shut it down!
Hello.